So right about here, actually touch the bottom button on the PlayStation. Sorry folks, technical error real quick. Bottom button, yep. There we go. All right, so dividing along the mastoid here and dividing along the mastoid here.
It barely shows that.
Okay. So what we're going to be doing is taking a section, we'll be creating a vertical section on each corner. We'll be elevating each corner up, letting the perimeter drop out. Right about here is where the occipital bone length would be established. And from there, we're going to be cutting straight up, basically a 90-degree, letting that fall down. And then from here, we're going to take the center of that panel, and we're doing large section panel cutting. With dry hair, over direction is more the key to creating a softness within. So comb cleanly, find your line, and again, cut nice and square. Double check. And you'll see it fall rather nicely. It exposes a little bit different of the bottom line. So now we're going to go back to this corner. We're going to do the exact same thing. Finding that length established at the occipital bone, that in general should be exactly the same as the other side. We'll do a little balance check in just a moment. Again, cutting that square, 90 degrees. A little balance check. Balance check, we're good. Now we're going to go to the center there, and we're going to cross over about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and we're going to over direct all of that. Back to our line, which is right here. So with that over direction, what we've done is taken the center and we've over directed everything to the outside corners. Those outside corners then have a little bit of layering established, and by over directing each one this way, you're creating graduations that flow inside, or essentially a V shape with your layering by over directing everything to the outside. And that's going to create a little bit of a weight in the center area, which I like for this type of long layer. And now what we're going to do is take that same guide that's established here. We're going to eliminate the sectioning in the back and just use the corner itself that we established earlier. This is now going to be our guide for the front area, and we'll be over directing that back and over directing each one to its previous section to create a rolling graduation within the layer. So what we're doing in that is elevating this up, this one back to its previous section. Now we're going to eliminate what was the guide, clipping that off. Now the next one becomes the guide. Take the next section, and we're going to then over direct that back to its previous section. So each one would gain about 1/4 inch in length, flowing towards the front just a little bit. So now we're going to eliminate the last one as a guide, clip that away, take another section, over direct it back. And we're going to continue that pattern until we pretty much get to right behind the ear, and then over direct everything back to it. So we're going to eliminate our guide, get this out of the way, eliminate. Now over directing back. There's our guide. And now everything's going to be over directed back to that because we've reached right over behind the ear. All right, by over-directing everything back, we're creating a nice push in the layer forward, and you can see, oh, those little petals in the way. Well, you can see that that then pushes that and makes it wrap around, which is very nice. So then let's go do that on the other side. Back to our corner, which is our guide is established. Clipping everything we're not using out of the way. Keeping clean and organized.
Is this on playlist?
Now we're going to take it another section forward. We're going to eliminate the one that we had as our guide. Get this clipped and clip it out of the way. We're going to take our next section forward. Find our guide, which is right there. Now we're going to do the same pattern again. We're going to eliminate the previous section, so this then gets out of the way. Rolling forward. Here's our guide. Same idea, we're going to eliminate the next section, previously get it out of the way. She has a fancy wrap in her hair, a little pink sparkle. Sorry if we nibbled on that a little bit.
No, totally fine.
You just clamp that in?
Yeah. It's a little tiny.
Okay, so we've reached the section behind the ear, so we're now over-directing back. Not much is reaching on that side. So now let's blend our interior layers in. Take another circle. I like the circle method with dry cutting because you can control all of it via the ponytail. You can just hold the ponytail and then kind of, if you're right-handed, easy on this side, keep your finger here and then step across with your hand and wrap around and meet your finger, pinch between the two, and you should be able to lift up and then just refine your circle a little bit, give it a twist, and pin it up out of the way. And then you've got equal distribution. And what's also very nice, and especially the dry cutting, dry hair already has the root pattern established and how it's going to move. Super important for me to read how each piece moves, and when you do a circle this way, you can really look along the line and you can pay attention to that growth pattern and follow it more specifically. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start back at the corners again, just above the mastoids. We're going to go back through here, and we're going to find that link that's established just by lifting up a section. So now we're going to cross over center, and we're going to over direct that whole panel back. And straight up. Slightly elevated section, not too square out. We want it to be softer rather than heavier. Heavier, too low. Softer, if you elevate and shift up as you're cutting. And because of the curvature of the head where you're sitting here, it's going to create a little bit of a softness as that falls, and it'll be just a little bit more blended. And you can see sort of the angle that's falling down in the layer. It's established that way. So we're going to do the same thing on this side now. And we're going to take a cross center, get everything else out of the way, and then go to this side, find our guide and do the exact same thing and find that same elevation where we're elevating up. There's our guide. that shift, that elevation to shift up just the tiniest bit. Now we're directing back and finding that same line, but shifting up and continuing to shift up. Some would say that's called cutting on a bias. As you shift, you pull yourself up. It's going to create the slightest little bow, sort of like cutting a bias on a pant leg, something that might have like a bell-bottom jean bias. This would create a very similar vibe. Now on this side, same idea. We're going to come back, we're going to find our guide, we're going to find our elevation, and we're going to do a little shift. Elevating again, elevating up, shifting up. Dropping down the top section now. And again, we're going to start on each corner, here and here. We're going to elevate off those corners. Integrating our top layer, finding our guide, elevating up. You want your line to keep going pretty much straight up into infinity while your hand shifts upward. Take everything across the center line in the back, over directed to your guide. So now do the same thing, center line on this side. So now we have our over direction points in the back. We have that little thing to watch out for there. Nothing is reaching. All established there. Okay, now we have face framing.
Yeah, you better help me out with that one.
So if you take your sections wide, that's the direction the hair is going to flow off the face. So here I think I want the fringe area to have a little bit wider stance than the back portion of that. So I'm going to divide that in a couple of sections. Find kind of her cheekbone, slide down just a little bit towards the jaw, I think, in between the cheek and the jaw. And then I want to rotate so that my fingers are pointing more down rather than out, because I want it to kind of curve around the eye shape a little bit. And then I'm going to just elevate that section a little to soften it. gonna add a little bit more, and I want to elevate that section even more to soften it more. Add just a little more and elevate that even a touch more. So every time I elevate, I'm creating a little softness on that line. And then now, I'm just going to soften the line while I'm at it. I usually do my texturizing kind of all at the end, but sometimes behind the chair, you just do it all in one because you're moving for time. I know that's really important. You see, I think that's going to be real pretty and kind of curved just around her cheekbone and her eye. Kind of hit that spot.
Mm-hmm.
So now, a little bit further, and I'm going to do a slight disconnection from that section. Because I wanted to frame her cheekbone, her eye area with that section, and then I wanted the rest of the layers to be longer. So I kind of divided at the fringe, and now I'm taking a fairly large section behind. Sometimes with dry hair cutting, a little larger is easier to manage, and then holding your tension is really important. And then what I'm really looking for, I needed a large section, I needed enough to show me what her length was going to be so that I can see where that's going to be down here. So I've got that and it just kind of barely falls out. So now I know that I can cut in between there and not destroy any of the length that we've established. And I'm going to let some of that fall out. I'm going to hold, and again, my finger position is going to be very straight down, and I'm pretty much very across the face. If I was looking at a clock, we might be looking at 6 o'clock straight down. Notice I have that pulled downward, not elevated quite as much as I did the fringe. I wanted a softer flow. And then from there, I'm just going to take that line and blend it by over-directing everything else to it. And I bet we're going to run out of hair pretty much behind the ear here. Not much should reach. But we're going to over-direct all of that hair as well. So I like a nice long graphite comb that's pretty firm and stiff for this. You can hold all of this hair. She happens to have quite thick but healthy, slick hair. Very healthy, very slick. So managing all of that, a comb of this type is extremely helpful. Getting your tension even, getting everything blended well is still important. Okay, and then head position. With me pulling on it, double check and put her head in the right place because they'll want to lean and help you out. So don't let them lean too far because that changes your angle. So make sure that that's also, solid. It's okay to let a few pieces there fall out. You can see my line. There's very, very little actually even reaching, and here it is. And then what we're going to do is, again, like I said, texturize straight away while we have it all there. I'm going to let that fall out. Find and double check my line. And then from here, I'm going to measure out about 2 inches. And I want to texturize that first 2 inches, and I want that to be extremely parallel. I want that going in straight away.
Someone asked, any tips for keeping hair slick?
For slick hair, well, keep it super healthy. Don't color it too much. Have great heritage and genes. That helps a lot. That's always a plus. But if you beat it up too much, don't perm it.
Probably eat healthy.
Eat healthy, that helps. Biotin is always a good one. So you can see also here the disconnection between the fringe and the layer there, right? So, if we like that, we're going to leave that disconnection. But you can see, because of that angle, it curves around her face quite nicely. We brought it all the way over to here, so the rebound of that is a nice curve, whereas if you pull it just too straight, it heads off that way and disappears. So we really wanted a curve that's going to wrap around her face like this, and have the bottom angling inward. And so the way that we over-directed the layer in the back is gonna push this forward. The way that we've over-directed this here is gonna push this around, but then also down. So we're gonna match that on the other side. And I'm gonna do a little bit different because she has a slight side part, not a heavy one, but slight. Smaller fringe section. Measuring. Turning my hand again towards about 6 o'clock. And then again texturizing about 2 inches into that. Keeping the comb, or keeping the scissors straight. So when you texturize, your line should look like this when you start, and when you're done texturizing, it should look like this. It should be equal, but still have definition to it, which I think is extremely important. A lot of people go in and take large triangle-sized chunks out, and that's really, you want to try and keep things as even and straight as possible to keep your line and your geometry as clean as possible as well. So texturizing is great, but you know, why do a bunch of big angles or triangles when you carefully crafted a shape and then you sort of tore it up with the triangles? You know, so you want to think about repeating everything you did with precision and texturizing again, using those exact same angles and just softening those angles. So all the way across, slightly down, fingers pointing 6 o'clock, headed down, straight down. Right. Then we're going to add everything to it, which probably won't be very much to reach here. Working around the little clip in the middle of her head. Okay, here we go. And let's see how much reaches. Almost nothing. Finding our line, double checking that line. And then we're going to texturize 2 inches into that line. So now we're going to go back and texturize our same angles. So basically what we did was we started here, and we over-directed the entire back to that panel. We also basically over-directed the entire back or front to that same line. So now we're going to take a line. We're going to find that section line all the way down from top to bottom. Double check it, clean it up. And now we're going to texturize 2 inches in. That 2 inches uniformly will create inside weight, same way that the outside weight will move. It'll create a lot of softness and it will make it grow out extremely well. One of the things that I'm known for behind the chair is haircuts that grow out really well. And they'll take a long time. You can see me in 3 to 6 months and it'll still in general have the exact same shape. It might just be a little beat up on the ends. Cross center. Over direct. So if you over directed an entire panel while cutting it, you should texturize that entire panel in the same direction. And that way the interior texturizing moves at the same angling that your exterior line. If you've got this shape here, then 2 inches inside, you're gonna have that same weight and it's all gonna move together, creating a nice pretty flow. And you have a lot of hair, Ronnie. A whole lot of hair. It's thick hair. All right, we're going to texturize on this side, and then our final move will be to refine our bottom line again, because once we move all that interior weight around, then the exterior will have moved a little bit because we changed all of the weight on the interior. Okay, look down. And so now that you've taken all this weight out and all the layering is above, this will have changed a lot and will be quite fuzzy. So, you know, with the head downward, we're going to clean and sharpen our line, nice and sharp. Beveling the back edge of your scissor so that you're almost undercutting a little bit helps with this, getting a sharpness. So this is the length that I find a lot of clientele wants. It's just kind of shoulder riding, edge of the shoulder, just a little below the collarbone. So it kind of is in between long and short hair, you know, and it makes them feel like they're still attached to their long hair. And then you can really refine the line just more and more. But it maintains this front angle, which is really nice. Everything pushes, all the layering pushes that way, the front line pushes that way. Everything's got a nice, clean, sharp angle to it. And we'll do the same on this side. I have to cheat and use the mirror real quick. Cool.
You like that new product?
I do, I think that it's really nice.
What is that?
It's the new Aveda serum.
Is that a product normally, is it designed to use afterwards?
You know, I don't really like to read the labels on things because I don't feel that a lot of the product manufacturers actually have too many hairdressers creating what's on the label.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes you just need to feel what a product does and be a hairdresser and analyze what does this product do in my hands and how does it make the hair feel. And then from there, if it says so on the bottle, great. But my job is to make people's hair look good and figure out how to make it look good. So I'm going to play with everything, touch it, and if I like then how it moves, then that's how I'm going to use it. I don't care what the bottle says. That's just me. 30 years later, that's just my thought process. So, but Ronnie, thank you very much. You know,
Thank you.
I think this is a beautiful look for you and a simple change, but thank you again for letting me play with your hair.
Absolutely.
Looks incredible.
Looks awesome. Okay, let's show it off on the white.
Right.
And if you'll stand up for us, please. Stand
Wow.
back.
Oh, stand right here.
Stand back.
Looks incredible. Spin around. Oh yeah.
You like it lighter.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That's great.
It is shorter. I love it. Thanks, Brendan.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You want to say anything else before we